Yo, what is good, everyone? Welcome back. Today we are talking about some brand new leaks regarding Battlefield 6 Season 2. When we got the most recent update here on November 18th, there was actually some data mining files people were able to find showcasing new guns, attachments, and different vehicles that are going to be getting added into the game. So that's actually pretty cool. And some people think it's for Season 2 and Season 3. But I'm going to show you guys why I believe it is pretty much exclusively Season 2. So all I need from you guys, if you enjoyed this video, is just to give it a like and subscribe as notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of my Battlefield 6 content. That being said, let's get into it. So like I was saying, in the November 18th, aka the California Resistance update, they added in a few different things here into the game's files, which is pretty typical of development studios to add things in, obviously, before they come out. It's not like it's the first time that something's going to be added into the game, that it's going to come out like that day or something like that. Studios all across everywhere always add things in way ahead of time. That way there's assets in there and they can do all that sort of fine tuning and engineering a little bit before it actually goes live. And a data miner by the name of Temporal ended up figuring out that there is roughly about 4 different guns, a bunch of different vehicles, some different gadgets, and a bunch of things that are actually already added into the files here for presumably Season 2. Only though one of the guns is specifically labeled to Season 2. The others are indeed not, but I do believe they're also going to be in Season 2, just given the fact that we already had an abundance of weaponry getting added into Season 1. So I'll flash it up on screen here, but the Season 1 preview where it showed the Rogue Ops, California Resistance, and the Winter Offensive update, which is going to be coming out here, I believe, in roughly about like a week and a half or so. It says December 9th, and of course you get the Ice Lock Empire State, which will be very cool. I am a fan of snow maps. I think that is actually really sick. But to kind of get into the topic of weaponry here within the update, we had the SOAR SOR 300 SC, the GGH-22, the Mini Scout. There is a battle pickup, which is not technically a new gun, but it is a new gun. And then we have the DB12 shotgun, which is like the doof from Warzone 1. That's what I like to call it. And then we have the M357 trait, which is another pistol. But all in total, we had 5 different weapons here for Season 1. Granted, 2 of them are pistols, but there is 3 primary-based weapons in this season. And then what is to come in the future in that December 9th update will be an ice climbing axe, which is just basically a melee. So I'm not really counting that as a weapon, but if you guys want to, we can add that in as well. But what's actually been data mined in particular is we'll get into some of the guns first, as I believe that's the most important thing that people really want to take a look at. The first thing that is specifically labeled here for Season 2 is going to be this LMG called the MG5. The MG5 might look kind of familiar for any guys that did play Battlefield 2042. I've seen some people kind of equate it out to the LCMG from that game, as everything obviously has got a bit of a different name, and a lot of people don't like to use the official names for guns, which does make sense due to licensing rights. But if you guys are familiar with that game and did play it a lot, personally, I did not, because it's kind of a pile of garbage. So I'm not really that familiar with it, but I'm familiar with a lot of other guns that have come from previous Battlefield titles, as I played those significantly more. So nonetheless, I'm happy to have an LMG added into the game. We can't only be getting, let's say, love for assault rifles, SMGs, stuff like that, or even sniper rifles. There's got to be kind of an equal balance for everything. Next up will be an assault rifle called the BREN 2, which has been seen, I want to say, in various different first-person shooters. What comes to my mind firstly is going to be Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 / Warzone. There was a gun that was very much so like the CZ BREN in that game. There's actually probably a few that are relatively similar to it, as it does shoot a 5.56 NATO rounds and shoots roughly around 760 rounds per minute. This is what the official Wikipedia says for the CZ805 BREN. Don't crucify me in the comments if I don't get everything correct here. It just looks very similar. I'm not a massive gun nerd. I'm trying to do the best I can. But if this is the gun that I'm thinking of, this will be a very nice addition. It should be something that obviously does shoot a 5.56 NATO, have a relatively mid-tier fire rate, and should be pretty decently accurate. Once again, I'm not a big gun nerd, and I do recognize the way this thing looks from other games, so I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together here. As you know, probably a majority of us out there aren't giant gun nerds, and we just kind of want to know what the DLC guns are. Then coming in after that's probably the one thing that I'm the most excited for right now is going to be the Škorpion Evo 3. So this, I'm pretty sure everybody and their mom can recognize the Škorpion Evo 3. This has been a long-standing fan favorite in a variety of franchises. It seems to be something that no matter what game it gets added into, it's always something that people want to use. However, it seems like it can be really, really good or really bad, depending on how people make it. And with Battlefield 6 having actually a couple different SMGs that have ridiculously high fire rates, this should be another one of those SMGs that gets added in and has a really high fire rate. First game I ended up seeing something like this in was probably way back in Call of Duty Black Ops 2. That's my first recollection of having a Škorpion Evo style gun. It's been used in so many different games since then, but overall, very excited for this. I like high fire rate SMGs. Fingers crossed though, it actually has a 30-round magazine, as I'm really not trying to use another SMG that's got a 900 round per minute plus fire rate, and that only has 20 rounds in the magazine. I'd like actually that to kind of not be a thing. I understand for some balance purposes that's probably useful, but I'm a little bit over that. And then coming in at something that also people should recognize, it's going to be the Škorpion VZ.61. This is a more compact version of a Škorpion. I recognize this, of course, from the original Call of Duty Black Ops titles. I ended up using this actually quite a decent bit back then, but I'm not exactly sure. My memory does kind of escape me. I don't believe this has been in different Battlefield titles since. I have to do a little bit of research on that, but this is more of like a compact PDW style SMG. Not really sure how this is going to function, if we're actually getting two SMGs, or if they're going to create a separate little category, or if this could even go in place of, let's say, a pistol, just because of how compact it is. I actually could see that being a thing, as we did actually get two pistols here within the Season 1 update. If it's fully automatic and it's any good, I could see a lot of people switching over from that M44 Magnum to actually be able to use this. It'd probably be pretty nice to go from using a full auto primary to a full auto secondary without having to run something like assault and running essentially kind of like an overkill loadout where you have your primary and your secondary and you're splitting ammo between the two, and now you could just run essentially your primary and then whip out a fully automatic pistol secondary. That'd actually be pretty sweet, and I could see them totally doing that. Now getting into some of the other things that I think people are going to care about is like the vehicles. I'm not necessarily a huge vehicle guy, but I'll still go through all this. We have the AH-6 Little Bird, which, I mean, everybody should remember the AH-6 Little Bird. That has been in Battlefield for a long time. It actually has been very OP, and I've died by the Little Bird so many times in previous Battlefield titles. It is really good. Jumping down in here, though, it says primaries. You have the Minigun, the GAU-19, the LR-30. For the secondaries, the APKWS, the Hellfire, the Hydra 70, the Stinger. For the equipment, there is going to be flares, a motion sensor, and thermal smoke. I am assuming that is all to do with the AH-6 Little Bird. And as far as the passenger goes, there's going to be a thermal scanner and a directional jammer. Now, it also says that there is going to be a Jetski in Season 3, and it says by description, a fast, agile watercraft perfect for rapid assaults and quick getaways across rivers and coastal zones. As you guys know, that in Battlefield right now, there is no sort of water maps, and naval combat was something a lot of people were really looking forward to, and they have definitely heard everybody's, sort of pleas for naval combat to be into the game, and I do believe we should be getting some naval maps, which I of course will update you guys when those do happen to get leaked or announced or anything else like that. I will keep everybody up to date with that. I'm actually a pretty big fan of those naval maps. I think they can have some very unique gameplay elements. I'm just not necessarily a big vehicle guy, so as long as there's some good infantry areas for me, that is where my strong suit is, and that's where I know I'm the most useful on the battlefield, is being in there with assault, support, something else like that, and just pushing through to get the OBJ. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about here is going to be the gadgets that we should be getting. The first one being the SICH G1 FRAG, aka an airburst grenade launcher. Chambered in 40mm grenades, this weapon fires frag grenades that can explode mid-flight to eliminate targets behind cover. I'm sure everybody remembers this. I believe this was in 2042, where you could actually designate the area in which, or the distance where your grenades should actually blow up. That makes sense. Not really sure how useful that's going to be, but it'll be pretty interesting nonetheless. Nice little gameplay dynamic element to be able to have. There's going to be the GL40 STKY. It's a sticky grenade launcher chambered in 40mm sticky grenades that can adhere to surfaces, vehicles, or soldiers, can be carried standalone or underslung. To me, what that means is that you're going to be able to shoot a Semtex style grenade where you throw it and it sticks to something and it blows up. That'd actually be pretty interesting to be able to have. Then there's going to be the M320A1 AT anti-vehicle grenade launcher, which is going to have a chambered in 40mm anti-tank grenades, ideal for combating enemy armor, and can be carried standalone or also underslung. And then last but definitely not least, there is going to be the RGO impact grenades, a fragmentation grenade that provides a quick explosion at the cost of less damage, detonates on impact. That'll be pretty cool, and I'd be interested to see that's going to be any good, or if it's just basically going to do hardly any damage and you have to hit them almost basically spot on for the grenade to really do any meaningful damage. Well, that's all I got for you guys here today. I believe a lot of this is actually going to be in Season 2, maybe minus the Jetski, as they have not announced any naval combat maps, but I do believe everything that I've showed you guys largely will be coming out in Season 2, as we've had 4 or 5 guns come in Season 1. We're going to have at least 4 leaks as of right now. That should be probably coming in Season 2. I can't imagine they're adding stuff into for Season 3 already in the files. I don't know if they're going to be that far ahead in their post-launch content, but overall, very excited for this. I think the guns are going to be worthwhile. I'm excited to see where they go, the maps that are going to be coming out. If you guys enjoyed this video, want to see more like this, be sure to give it a like, subscribe as notifications turned on, check out this other video on screen, and I'll see you guys all next time.